All right, so one of the biggest trending topics on the internet these days is the real estate market is changing in the U.S. It is in two major ways. One is the fallout from all these lawsuits that came about from Sitzer Burnett. If you don't know what that is, you can Google it, and it's got a plethora of information. Essentially, and my take on it is, and I don't want to get too deep into this, but there was somebody that didn't read a contract, didn't ask any questions, and then felt like they got used by their realtor. And I mean, I'm not saying that they didn't, because I feel like that realtor didn't do their job at all, but then I don't feel like a lot of realtors do. So that's the easy part of that. But there's going to be a lot of laws governing real estate, and it's a national solution to a statewide problem. So I don't know how other states are affected. In the state of Florida, there's really only two major provisions of this, the whole thing that's changing the real estate market as far as realtors go. One is that by law, all realtors that are going to show a buyer a house have to get a contract signed prior to showing them any property. A buyer broker agreement by law. It's not going to be a choice. We're not going to have the choice and say, hey, can you sign this? It's like, you have to sign this or we can't take you out or we'll lose our license. That explains, real estate broker commission structures and things like that. There's going to be, and they keep changing the rules on what exactly is going to be in there. So I don't want to comment on that yet. But it's going to be a buyer broker agreement that says, if we buy you the house, we'll get paid. Or if we find, if we're the ones that directly find you the property, negotiate and all that, that we'll get paid commission on it. It's going to break down the structure of commission, how it gets paid, who pays it, all this sort of stuff. Again, it's still a little bit of a toss up on that end. The VA, though, breaking news, the VA, who very much didn't want to do it, had to change their rules, because historically the VA mandated that VA buyers were forbidden from paying any kind of brokerage fees. It all had to be paid by the seller, not just brokerage fees, but there's a lot of other fees that had to be paid by the seller. They mandated that. That's the way it's always been, because the VA is in the business of getting VA customers the best deal possible, and they were able to mandate that. They just, I think 3 days ago, temporarily, because they're still fighting. There's a lot of whole fighting still going on, but temporarily changed the rules, allowing VA customers now to pay brokerage fees, and that's huge. That's a big thing. And I mean, I'm a veteran. I'm kind of surprised the VA caved in on that quickly, but they want to do what's best for VA buyers. VA buyers have so much support behind them from the VA. It's incredible. And just an aside, some people don't like VA loans. They're very afraid of them and stuff like that. VA loans are amazing. The VA's job is to put veterans into homes. They're not trying to keep them out of homes. So don't be afraid of a VA loan if somebody wants to buy your house. And in Florida, again, so the only change for sellers is that we are now, as realtors, not going to be able to announce whatever the cooperative brokerage amount is that is being offered by the seller on the MLS. To me, and let me just do the disclaimer: this is not Kai's company. It's Andrew. I'm making my point known here. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. Anytime you take something that was in the light and put it into the dark, it's not good. Somehow or other, they're saying that this is going to help sellers pay less commissions. That's not true. The commission part's not going away. There is no rule saying that the sellers can't pay commission to a buyer's broker anymore, and sellers that decide they don't want to are, quite frankly, stupid. This is the last of the free market businesses in the world, and we want every single buyer agent out there to be fighting with all the other ones to get their customer in front of your house, because that's still the best way to sell a house. A big part of my job is marketing to those buyer brokers. It's marketing to everybody, but it's also marketing to those buyer brokers. And taking away the ability to advertise that amount is going to be counterproductive for our sellers. I don't get it. I don't like it. the National Association of Realtors agreed to it, though, so I'm stuck with it. But again, to be clear, there is no change in the offering. It's just how we are going to be able to offer it, right? And when you get, I'm not going to say anything till August 31st when this is all supposed to happen, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very creative, and it's going to be, again, I think the whole thing is detrimental to sellers, but that's my opinion. Again, I mean, the real estate business is not going away. If you want less for your home, you can always find less for your home. Anyways, that's one change. The other big change is that COVID rebound, honestly, is what I'm going to call it. There's a lot of markets that are now slowing down. There's some that are picking up. There's parts of the country right now where you can't get a house. But there's parts of the country, like here in South Florida, that were just off the rails for 4 years that are now settling down. I don't expect anything close to a crash or anything, but we're not, for the first time in years, days on market have gone up pretty good. Like we're in most markets here, we're like 89 days on market. During the active COVID, we were like 3 days on market. You could throw a house up right in, I'd do anything to it, and boom, it was gone. That's why everybody became a realtor then too, I guess. And now a lot of these markets are slowing down a good bit. We here, for about the last 6-8 months, we're in like what I considered like a pre-COVID market, a sort of normal market. Now we're definitely shifting into a buyer's market in almost every part of South Florida, definitely Palm Beach County. But there's there's some places, because I'm on a couple of national masterminds. There's some places that in like Idaho. Idaho is off the chain. I think it's Idaho Falls. There's a gentleman, and he's like, man, you can't get a house here. It's just crazy. So I don't know. I don't really know much outside of Florida except for what I hear from my contemporaries and people that I work with in other places when we send people there. The market is changing and the business is changing. Again, the business, we'll see what happens. Again, I don't know how they do business in your state. Like New York State does business completely differently than we do here in Florida. I do know that because we have a lot of back and forth. Michigan, same thing. Michigan, a lot of back and forth, so I'm fairly familiar with how they do it. Completely different than the way we do it. But what I do know is that in every state in the United States, there's going to be a buyer's broker agreement that must be signed by a buyer, any buyer. Even if you're just kicking tires, you're still going to have to sign it because the realtor will lose their license if they don't get you to sign it before they take you out. So that's one change. Like I said, I don't hate that change. We already do buyer broker agreements anyways. And then the other change is, at least in the state of Florida, the only other change is that we will no longer be able to show the offer of compensation to a buyer's agent on the MLS, which to me is stupid. I think there's going to be all kinds of, look, every business has bad actors. And when you start taking things out of light and putting it into the dark, them bad actors just go like this, right? I don't like it. I think it's detrimental to the public. I think it's detrimental to the sellers. Honestly, probably it's going to be detrimental to some buyers, especially first-time home buyers. Because here's the thing. When they're mandating that we have to tell you that you now have to pay whatever amount of commission if the seller doesn't pay it, right? One of two things is going to happen. You go, I'm going to go on my own. I'm going to do it on my own. That's not going to be good for a lot of people, for definitely most first-time home buyers, and for a lot of second and third-time home buyers, because they're going to get eaten alive by a lot of listing agents, because they're going to go, I'll just go to the listing agent. And I guess it just depends on which listing agent you get, right? A lot of them it's not going to end up well. And then we're going to have more, it's going to be bad. Anyways, that's what's happening. Hey, if you enjoy Questions from Chala, why don't you be a part of it? Let us know what you want to hear about, and Chala will ask me right here on live TV, kind of.